It's Monday, April 7th. This is a little unusual meeting. We're going to start off with a couple committee meetings, relatively short committee meetings. Then we'll have some announcements, as always, and ordinances for third, second, and first reading. And then we have several ordinances, one reading ordinances that are dealing with some street work that we're going to be doing this summer. So we'll begin with our Transportation Committee led by Michelle Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Oh, I've got the feedback. Well, we're beginning our legislation now for all the projects we're going to be doing this summer. What we need to talk about tonight briefly is the Richland South project in regards to the right-of-way acquisitions. We are working with several entities, Speedway, Wendy's, and Chase Corporate, to deal with the necessary right-of-way that needs to occur during the construction process. So I think our city attorney, Mr. Lang, does have one thing to share with us before I go into this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to bring the committee and the council up to speed on this. I've been working with our city's acquisition agent on this project, and along with Andy Stone and his staff. And we do believe at this point that hopefully all four of these parcels that the city is moving forward on this evening will be able to come to an agreement with the property owners, and that this will be what's sort of a friendly acquisition. We've actually worked out contracts with all of the other property owners along Richland Avenue who have agreed to allow the city onto their property for purposes of this widening of and improvement of Richland Avenue. And we believe that will also be the case with these remaining four. The reason that these are coming before the council this evening is simply a question of timeline. If by chance we are not able to come to an agreement, then we need to be able to initiate proceedings as quickly as possible. So while council is this evening declaring its intent to seize these properties for at least a temporary purpose of conducting these improvements, it is our hope that that will not be necessary, and that we will be able to work out an amicable solution with each of these four property holders. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the fourth property was the Carriage Hill property there on Richland Avenue is the fourth property. So we will have resolutions later this evening during our regular session to discuss.
Remind us of,
yes.
Of what's
the timeline.
On Richland Avenue and timeline.
So starting in May, after graduation, we will begin the process of reconstruction, I guess is a good word, of Richland Avenue from Dairy Lane down to Canterbury Lane. So every property owner along that strip has been met with by our engineering department, and they've discussed all the issues relative to the construction project. So they're all very well aware. And the reason we're bringing up these four properties is, like was explained, they are major corporations, and it takes a period of time to work through to their main office. So we want to make sure that we're all in order ahead of time. And that's why we're doing this. Okay. Paula, Service Safety, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that's exactly right. It really just comes down to a matter of timing. In order for us to meet our timing and our letting of this project, we have to proceed with this. But we do anticipate, as Director Lang said, that they will donate. It's just a matter of having that occur. And the second component is the authorization for our LPA agreement for
Correct.
Richland South, which is
Go ahead.
local project administrator. We're actually pretty proud of it. We're being told we're the only one in the district that even has this designation, and it's because of Andy and Jessica working so closely with ODOT so that we're allowed to be our local project agent for this Richland South, so.
And how that's appropriate for our city and helpful for our city is that there's no funds put on hold, or in, how do you say that, Auditor Heck, where they hold funds on the side. They directly pay us, correctly? Or, I mean, that the funds go from us to them.
Or the funds go directly from the state to the contractor, and the fact that
Correct.
we're just do such a wonderful job of project
no in-between.
administration that it's done. And we don't have to pay for someone else to do that project administration on our behalf, which a lot of other entities have to.
So in the end, we save money.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's a good thing. And so, yes, we will have an ordinance read later on this evening regarding that. I think that covers the Richland South issues tonight. Union Street, we will be working on Union Street from Schaefer to South Congress this summer. And that also is a major paving and infrastructure. We are replacing the current water lines with a 12-inch water line. And we'll be doing sidewalk work and paving. And also there will be bike lanes put in. I think that's the main
I couldn't
issue.
fit the bike lanes in and
Well, I
lose
mean-
all that parking, I'm sorry.
Right.
Jennifer's painfully aware of that.
There'll be better signage
would be.
and posting and those kinds of things. I think that's, yes,
This is 02414 that you're going to be reading for the first time.
right.
I would point out that there's somewhere down in section 2, there's $400,000 of issue 1 fund money. And this is what I know you have a resolution to endorse the passing of the issue 1 in the May ballot. So this is a case where this is where this money goes to help us along. It's not chump change in that sense. So I'll just point that out.
And point being, if there was an issue one's funds, it would be difficult to fund a project like this.
It'd take longer. We'd have a longer road that's in bad shape and water lines that are breaking for a longer period of time.
So we will be discussing and bringing that legislation forward later in our meeting. Steve?
You may have mentioned this and I didn't catch it, but is this also including the lift station, the depot lift station is going to be included in this
That's
next as
not-
well?
that's
further down the line. That's a CHIP grant, CDBG.
Okay.
That's a separate.
And critical infrastructure grant that we're pursuing.
I believe what it was, and we talked about this on the JPAC safety tour, was the SWIFT grant for the stormwater improvement funds. We're trying to incorporate that into the West Union because then it would go down past the depot into the old Oxbow. And that grant application is going to be submitted, I think, later this week, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Member Fall, Planning and Development Committee.
Great, thank you. I just have one small item. It's not small, but it's kind of the culmination of a long and arduous process that people in the city have gone through, especially people up at University Estates. It will be an ordinance confirming the dedication of streets in the University Estates area as city streets. And this is now something that we have gone through and done work up there. We've done, the roads are now up to city's requirements, and now the city can accept them as city streets. So that will be brought forward. Yay.
Okay?
I was just going to comment that our ability to borrow money to make those improvements, even though the property owners are going to pay for their part of the assessments, part of the responsibility for improving those roads was ours. But that's part of the agreement for us with our bond council to improve streets that don't belong to us, that we will accept them and make them our streets when the process is done.
When they're brought up to cities.
Right.
Yeah. We don't want city streets not being up to city code.
No.
Because then they just fall apart and cost us more.
Right.
So that was
So-
one reason why it took us so long to do this. So. Due diligence on the part of city. That's all I have for the committee meeting.
Okay, we're going to go into our regular session then, and establish a quorum with all council members present. Communications from other officials, Mayor Weil?
Not really much to mention, except that we're now into April, and we're going to have the last week, of course, of our spring cleanup. So you can put as much, how many bags you want, last week of April. That would be the 21st to the 26th, I think. So just to let everybody know that it's coming up, so we'll post it on our city website, so you have more information. But it's basically the idea of cleaning all the debris out in the winter. I don't think I have anything else
We
unless you...
have lots. It's a very busy weekend.
Oh. Well, there's Beautification Day that's coming up Sunday. Sandlot Lee's going to have a parade. There's going to be a marathon, I think, on Sunday morning, just to keep us on our toes. MS Walk on Saturday. Kids Fest, when is that exactly?
Saturday.
Saturday. So we've got a few things going on. I lost track of half this stuff at this point because I know it's going to be a busy weekend. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay.
Okay, between the two of you, you've
Covered it all.
everything.
We got it.
Thank you. Auditor Hecht?
No report.
Law Director Lang?
No report.
Communications from other elected officials. I think Member Fall.
I do. I just want to congratulate the city administration and particularly Paul Logue for the dedication that right now the City of Athens has been certified as a certified local government for historic preservation by the National Park Service. And this has been something that was talked about in our comprehensive plan, so it's another thing we can tick off on our comprehensive plan. And basically this allows the city, because they have been proactive in getting together the requirements for the certified local government to be able to have access to certain grants and other programs under the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966. And I know that Paul has been working very hard on this. Part of it was establishing a Historic Preservation Commission, which have been working. They're in the process of looking at doing surveys of properties. We passed a historic preservation ordinance, and all these things together now make us a certified local government, which I think we've been working on this for a while. So, Paul?
I'd like to give kudos to the planner as well. He's an excellent fit for our city in terms of he as an alumni of you, and he loves our city a lot. I'll point out he also has guided our Environment and Sustainability Commission in place. I know he's also helped in this past year putting our Arts, Parks, and Recreation Strategic Plan together, which the public hearing will be the 25th? 24th. There'll be a public hearing at the community center concerning this, so you can have some input. The plan should be on the city website as well.
He's been a busy person.
Yes, he's an asset, and part of the comprehensive plan was to put one in place, a planner, and we've got a good one.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Any other comments from the council members? I'm going to move on then to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 1814, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to purchase a replacement track hoe for the Public Works Department. Member Pappy?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 01814.
Second?
And, this is the third reading for this ordinance. We've discussed it prior. We have gone through the, I believe that we're recycling it. We're just trading it in. I know there were questions about that before, so I'm not sure if everybody remembers how much we're spending. I need to find that. Oh, I don't have that. How much we're spending.
About 120.
Is this the final amount? It is. Okay. Let me find it. 65,000. Does that sound right?
And I believe we have a trade-in value of 6,000, so I assume that that's the amount, appropriation amount that we need.
Right. I remember last time we discussed it, it was a little bit more, so that is the trade-in amount is 6,000. Okay, so we are appropriating 65,000. All right, and I probably need to remind everybody the funds. So 22,000 is coming out of the street fund, 220. 22,000 out of the water maintenance fund, and 21,000 out of the sewer maintenance fund.
It's a shared piece of equipment.
Council members, all those in favor of ordinance 1814 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. Moving on to ordinance 1914, an ordinance authorizing right-of-way acquisition, construction, and construction engineering of the Richland Avenue, of the Richland South Project number 244, and declaring an emergency. Also introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt 01914.
Second.
This is a more detailed authorization in terms of funding. We are looking at $470,000 for street, out of the street rehab fund. $2,986,748 out of the Small Cities ODOT fund, 589. $300,000 out of the water maintenance fund, $90,000 out of the sewer maintenance fund, $175,000 out of the stormwater fund. And so we are asking the Service Safety Director to authorize this amount so that the engineering and the project can begin. I think that's all I need to say. Any questions on that? I think we've been through this several times.
All those in favor of ordinance 1914 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. This ordinance is adopted. Okay, we'll move on to ordinances for second reading. Ordinance 1114, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application, enter into an agreement with the Ohio Development Services Agency for a Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Small Cities Allocation Program for calendar year 2015, which is federal fiscal year 2014, and designating Hocking, Athens, Perry Community Action Programs, HAPCAP, as the CDBG contract administrator. Member Nisley, any comments? Ordinance 2014, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to submit an application and enter into an agreement with the Ohio Development Services Agency for a Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Critical Infrastructure Program for calendar year 2015, which is federal fiscal year 2014, and designating Hocking, Athens, Perry Community Action Programs, HAPCAP, as the CDBG contract administrator. Member Nisley? No? And ordinance 2114, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a partnership with the Athens County Commissioners and the city of Nelsonville for submission of applications to the Office of Community Development, Ohio Development Services Agency, ODSA, for the fiscal year 2014 Community Housing Improvement Program, CHIP grant, and designating Hocking, Athens, Perry County Community Action Programs, HAPCAP, as the CHIP grant contract administrator. These are issues that allow the city to work with other agencies and put together funding for activities that we would not be able to do otherwise. And now we'll go to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 2414, an ordinance authorizing right-of-way acquisition, construction, and construction engineering of the West Union Street project number 280, authorizing an interfund transfer and declaring an emergency. Introduced by Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. President. So this ordinance, and we'll have, it does not need to be suspended, so we'll just discuss it this evening, but allows the Service Safety Director to authorize to accept bids on the Union Street project. And these funds will be transferred, $80,365 to the street, to the street fund, $66,000 to the State Highway Fund, $191,000 to the Wheel Tax Fund, $186,865,000 to the Water Maintenance Fund, $16,308 to the Sewer Debt Fund, and $400,000 to the Issue 1 Fund. So Auditor, we straight on everything? Okay.
Ordinance 2514. Did you need to say something?
Well, Service Safety Director is asking about the transfer, and I think you mentioned it, but just to be clear, that moving the money from the sewer debt fund to the sewer fund for this project is appropriate. We put extra money in there. I think I sent that out today, from fees like reconnect and tap fees that are not regular service charges into the sewer debt fund to make sure we can make our loan payments. But we have built up a surplus in there, and that is sewer money and can absolutely be moved. There's not enough money in the sewer fund for all these projects we have going right now. So there'll be another transfer from sewer debt into the sewer fund, and we will still have enough money for our debt payments.
So in essence, what you're saying is you've built up a little savings account
Yes.
by these extra payments, or these extra
We
charges.
did, because we've had and we've taken on a very, very large sewer debt in the last couple of years, but we had quite a few OWDA loans for the sewer fund, and we have to make our payments on those. So that was a way to make sure the money was in there. And as you said, now we've built up a little bit of a savings. And rather than, and council did change the mix of what we were putting in there a little bit, just about a year ago, last year. But it still has money in there and can be moved as needed.
Mayor?
I'd also point out the total price for the West Union is $973,000 change. So it's a good sized project that's going to be occurring this summer.
Council members? Okay. Thanks, John.
Introducing also for first reading ordinance 2514, an ordinance authorizing the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA federal local let project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for the rehabilitation of Richland Avenue between Canterbury Drive and Dairy Lane. This is project number 244, and declaring an emergency. Councilmember Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we talked about this some at our meeting earlier, before this meeting. Again, the total cost of the project is estimated to be $3,608,435. And ODOT shall provide to the city 90% of the eligible cost, up to a maximum of $450,000 in federal safety funds. ODOT shall also provide to the city 10% of the eligible costs, up to the maximum of $50,000 in state safety funds. ODOT shall provide to the city of Athens 80% of the eligible costs, up to a maximum of $2,486,748 in federal small cities and TAP funds. So we are authorizing with this ordinance the Service Safety Director to enter into an LPA federal local let project agreement with the Ohio Department of Transportation for the rehab of Richland Avenue.
comments on this ordinance? Ordinance 2614, an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street between State and Carpenter on Tuesday, July 8, 2014, from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. for Rally North America and the City of Athens, Ohio fundraiser. Member Pappy again.
Thank you, Mr. President. Rally North America, just to remind folks, raises money and awareness for a charity each year while partaking in an automotive scavenger hunt and requiring that host cities provide a scenic backdrop for their starting line, typically a historic downtown area, which we are now federally designated. The mayor and service safety directors shall implement the following: close Court Street to vehicular traffic in the city of Athens between State and Carpenter on Tuesday, July 8th, 2014, from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the Rally North American City of Athens fundraiser. Yes, Mayor.
I would point out, I don't think it takes both of us to actually implement this following, although maybe I'm needed for the historic background. So you might want to just authorize the service safety director to do it, or I can delegate to her to do that. But.
Well, then they'd have to amend and send it back to first reading.
Oh, no. I guess we can work together on that.
Thank you.
Ordinance 2714, an ordinance to ensure local match funds for the Mobility Manager Grant and declaring an emergency. Councilmember Nisley this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has kind of a strange title, the Mobility Manager, but what that person does is oversees all of our transit programs for the City of Athens. The funding comes through a grant from Ohio Department of Transportation, and we have participated in this for several years.
We're up to year 3 or 4 right now.
Yeah. HAPCAP is the administering agency for this, and we have had a mobility manager in place, so they help coordinate the Athens Transit, the Go Bus. Now we have an Athens On-Demand transportation service, and it's also, I might add, critical for coordinating the other bus services in town, including the Summit apartment complex, which I think is now under our bus system. And then also, I know in the past that we've worked with the CATS, the Ohio University bus system, to coordinate general signage. So this person kind of oversees all the projects and makes sure things are running smoothly. Our contribution to the cost share on this, which is what this ordinance is about, is that we provide $5,000 of match from our enhancement funds to go towards the costs during the year.
And this is a county-wide mobility coordination. I believe there's the county and Job and Family Services also contributes, I think, $5,000 from their funds. And again, it's the task, of course, is to coordinate all the transportation activities within the county, which is why the Athens On Demand is part of that piece of it. But the other organizations, this gives us an overview and it helps us actually garner funds for the other transportation needs that are out there, whether it's United Seniors of Athens or other entities. And I don't know most of them as well as I should, but the fact is it's a coordinated, shared function.
Comments?
Yes. I sit on that advisory council with the people who run these different agencies and services, and I really appreciate that group. They're always well-informed and have their information, they explain it well, and they also seem to work very well together. So the fact that we are kicking in $5,000 to this fund and helping this, I think we definitely receive our money back many times over. It's a well-run, and they, like I said, they coordinate well.
Ordinance 2814, an ordinance amending the 2014 appropriation ordinance, introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend Ordinance 2814.
Second.
The purpose for the suspension being because there is an immediacy or need of repairs to some flooring in the city building.
We have a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2814. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The rules have been suspended. Member Nisley?
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 2814.
Second.
And this particular appropriation is for $5,000. It will be to the Law Administration Building Improvements Fund, and these are for flooring repairs that are needed in the police department.
All those in favor of ordinance 2814 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 2914, an ordinance confirming the dedication of streets in the University Estates area, introduced by Councilmember Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. As I discussed earlier in the committee meeting, this is the culmination of a long process on accepting the city streets, updating and accepting the city streets up in the University Estates area of the city as city streets. Hence, they will be maintained by the city after this. So, no suspension needed.
Ordinance 3014, an ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of Athens to execute an agreement with the Southeast Ohio Public Energy Council for the purpose of jointly establishing and implementing an electricity aggregation program pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Section 4928.20, and declaring an emergency. I think Member Cochran is going to speak to this.
Yes, thank you. This ordinance is as a result of the ballot initiative passed by voters in the city back in November to pass electric aggregation program that would be an opt-out program so that we may maximize our purchasing power for energy in the future. And so as a result, we will be having 2 public hearings coming up soon. One will be held in the city of Athens, one will be held out in the county, since this is a joint city-county venture. And the purpose of these public hearings will be to explain the next steps in this process to any citizens who are interested in coming and learning more, as well as asking questions and providing their input. So we will be providing more information about those public hearings as they are scheduled, and we hope to have lots of citizen input in the process as we go along.
Just to add a few things to this, Member Patterson and I met with some of the county officials as well. Again, what we're trying to put together is a council to evaluate, put an RFP together, do the steps that are required to become an electrical aggregator, make sure we have a goal set, and vet that eventually an RFP to request for proposals for what kind of energy we want to purchase. The meetings will, as I say, take place. We have a requirement of 2-week notice, so we'll be getting a first one, I think, in the city soon. I'll get the notice out there as soon as I confirm the dates. This is one of many steps that take place, and we'll keep everybody informed as best possible. And again, the hope is to save money and make sure the dollars stay local, and if possible, make it sustainable as well. So there's many goals that are in part of it. The council draft has been put together. We'll probably get that out as a PDF on our city website as soon as we work out. That will be a draft point for feedback to the public hearings that will take place. So the idea is to put something out, get some feedback, and say amend it as needed, especially in terms of guidance and structure.
Mayor, I know citizens are getting calls right now about electrical aggregation. Is there a guesstimate on when the Athens city county would be available?
I couldn't start to guess. I imagine before the end of the year, but other than that, I could not say any, not earlier than June by any means, because we won't have everything scheduled and done by then. The process, of course, getting certified, putting an RFP out, all takes time. We know that from our bidding process as a government entity. I know a lot of people do get calls. The anticipation as an aggregated county and city We fully expect to have a better purchasing power than an individual.
Yeah, that's the point I wanted to
Yes.
make.
You know, the discussion that goes forth, of course, is in putting that RFP out is, you know, what are the parameters of what kind of energy we want, how long we want to put ourselves into a contract in terms of the cost as well as the duration. There's fluctuation in that. I am aware that I think Ainsville is going to be putting it on the ballot, so we could expect them to want to join this council eventually if they pass, and I assume they will. So there are things in play, but I would not expect it before June, and I would hope it be done by the end of
Thank you.
the year. Okay.
Yeah,
Member-
the meeting that the mayor was talking about that I was at as well, that was pretty much the conversation, is that, you know, best case scenario that things would move along to where there was hopefully an RFP to go out in May, late May, and then move forward from there. But it is, and that's part of what will come out with the town hall meeting, or the open forum, would be to allow for, you know, making sure that everyone knows the steps along the way, and there are going to be many steps as this is moving forward, so everyone's well aware of how that's going to play itself out. There is, you're going to hear SOPEC quite a bit, I think, which is kind of the term that's been the acronym now for the Southeastern Ohio Public Energy Council. As I understand it from Commissioner Schmiel, there's guidance from an entity here in the state of Ohio, NOPEC, which is out of the Cleveland area, and they've been at this for over 12 years and have been very forthcoming with sharing information, some of the things that have taken place. So again, timing-wise, it's important that this rolls this summer and see what happens.
I would just remind people who are getting phone calls from these companies, I believe that many of them have, you know, after 3 months you can opt out, or 6 months. Many of them have those kind of options, that people should ask that question if they feel like they want to move forward for themselves individually, at least for 6 months or whatever. They should ask for that option. That I believe that is something that you can do. So if you feel like you want to sign up now, go ahead and do that, but ask for that, and I believe that they all have options like that.
The Public Utilities Commission of Ohio has an excellent spreadsheet, downloadable spreadsheet, that shows all the details of all the different companies, whether there or not there's an early withdrawal penalty payment and that kind of thing.
Right.
And you can check their rates all in one easy location.
The anticipation is that, then again, you can compare that and find out what kind of bargain you can get. The anticipation as a buying club that we would be in county and city, we could do better than what's at the PUCO spreadsheet there. It is important to go look at that because it does have quite a few pieces of information in terms of electrical aggregation, buying your electrical generation. Also, the other site that's worth checking out and educating yourself with is Ohio Consumer Council. They have a section in electrical aggregation, including the steps as well as the process. The process, of course, is by law, we have to send out notices and give the opportunity for anybody who is not happy with whatever we come up with to opt out. So there are steps that will take time, and including a public hearing as part of that process. But again, there's a lot of information out there, and it's worth checking into. PUCO being the main one, Ohio Consumer Council being the other. Yes.
I think it's important for people to remember, too, that this is just simply a fee for the generation of the electricity. The transportation of the electricity is still under the command of AEP, so there's still that fee. That's not going to change. So no matter what comes out of this, which I hope is successful, we're still bound to AEP to get the electricity from the generating plant to our homes. Which brings us to the point when power doesn't come to your home, it won't be the fault of our generator, whoever we choose. It'll still be AEP who I'll blame. And I am.
Okay.
Ordinance 3114, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a subordination agreement for the city's mortgage with Brenda Morris for real estate located at 35 Eden Place and declaring an emergency. introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we suspend the rules for ordinance 3114.
Second.
The purpose for suspension being that we have a need to finalize the paperwork for this particular agreement.
We have a motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 3114. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 3114.
Second.
And this particular, the details of the ordinance were discussed in our last committee meeting. This is a piece of property that we were able to assist with the down payment through one of our community development block grant programs that provides assistance for this. And in this particular case, the mayor has met with the property owner, and I have also to document the improvements made to the property and the planned upcoming improvements to the property. So we are, Finance Committee is comfortable with suggesting that we execute the subordination agreement for the mortgage.
All those in favor of this ordinance 3114 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. And then we have several one-reading resolutions. Resolution 0414, a resolution to appropriate property for a temporary construction easement on property owned by National Bank, which is also called Chase Bank, on Richland Avenue, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 719.04 and 719.05. I think Member Pappy is going to speak to these.
We spoke about these earlier in our meeting prior to this meeting, committee meeting. I don't know if should we read through each and every of the resolutions word by word, because they're very similar except for the cost. I thought I would just, each one has a separate amount. So for public convenience and due to the fact that we are doing the construction on Richland Avenue, we need these resolutions as was discussed earlier. The one for the Chase Bank on Richland Avenue, for the temporary construction easement along with any damages and the residue thereafter, we've determined that $3,983 is what money will need to be put aside for that project. Everything else is a very legal document. I don't know that we need to really read that.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If these are the four outstanding properties that we haven't come to agreement with, if they come to an agreement in the future for not having, pay, then this is kind of up to, and it doesn't obligate us to pay. Is that
Right,
true?
assuming that question was directed at me,
Yeah, I'm looking
yes,
at
as I had said in committee, what's basically happening here is, the city has reached out over the last several months to all of the property owners along Richland Avenue to try to work out an amicable agreement in which we give them a certain amount of money in return for their voluntarily giving us permission to go on to their property to conduct these improvements. With these four, it doesn't necessarily stand that we cannot come to an agreement. It just is because of, for various reasons, mostly to do with their corporate structures and just their timetables, we haven't yet been able to get those signatures on paper. We're confident that we will be able to do so with all four of these. So we're sort of doing this as a preventative measure, just a precautionary measure, just in case we do need to initiate a court proceeding to get access to those properties. That we have this. This is the first step from what is council's requirement. This then empowers the mayor to send a notice should such notice be necessary, that we intend to file a court proceeding, but we're hoping that we don't get to that level. And then I guess one final thing I would say on all four of these, in case anyone is wondering why this is being done as a one-reading resolution, is that typically whenever council takes a substantive action, that's something that requires 3 readings. This is a particular niche of state law in Chapter 700 in which the Ohio law allows, or rather requires, that to initiate such proceedings that this be done via a one-reading resolution. So that's why it's 1 versus 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I move to adopt Resolution R0414.
Second.
All those in favor of adoption of Resolution 0414 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. We'll move on to Resolution 0514, a resolution to appropriate property for a temporary construction easement and a standard highway easement on property owned by Super America Group, Inc., Speedway, on Richland Avenue pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 719.04 and 719.05. Member Pappy.
Mr. President, I move to adopt R0514.
Second.
The cost on this particular piece of property, parcel 22T, temporary construction easement, is listed at $1,198, and for parcel 22SH, perpetual easement, $1,895.
All those in favor of Resolution 0514 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay. This resolution is adopted. Resolution 0614, a resolution to appropriate property for a temporary construction easement on property owned by Robust Properties Limited, Wendy's, on Richland Avenue, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 719.04 and 719.05. Member Patrick.
Mr. President, I move to adopt R0614,
Second.
and the amount of money being put aside for this is $358.
All those in favor of Resolution 0614 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The resolution is adopted. And we move on to Resolution 0714, a resolution to appropriate property for a temporary construction easement on property owned by Southeast Development Company Number 2, Carriage Hill, on Richland Avenue, pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 719.04 and 719.05. Member Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt R0714.
Second.
The amount on this piece of property is $331.
All those in favor of Resolution 0714 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. This resolution is adopted. And then we'll move on to a little different resolution, Resolution 0814, a resolution urging Ohio voters to support State Issue 1, renewal of the State Capital Improvements Program on the May 6, 2014 ballot. Introduced by all members of council. I think Member Nisley is going to speak to this.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, the issue 1 is an important item that's going to come up on the May ballot. And this is for renewal of a bond through the state for 10 years, and it would be $1.75 million. As Mayor Weil explained last week, it's been responsible for approximately $3.6 million worth of projects in the Athens area alone. So our Carpenter Street improvements, our Columbus and Lancaster Road Street improvements, the Jeff Hill East Union Street rehabilitation, our East State Street paving, our Elliotsville Road rebuilding, the middle school area paving, and several others. The North Court Street infrastructure improvements, sanitary relief sewer, and the West Union Street area paving. So it provides infrastructure project money all over the state, but has a very definite impact on our Southeast Ohio region with the money it brings in here. And what it does is helps us with project costs for what we call these projects are infrastructure repair, and also replacement projects. And it also helps up to portions of project costs for new or expansion projects. So very definitely something that's not a tax on people. It's just a renewal of a bond at the state level. And so something we feel is, we think is vitally important to the Athens community. So that's why we're putting the resolution through. At which point I would like to move approval.
Second.
Second.
Second. Okay. Do we have any other comments?
This, we're in the, I think, round 29 of the Public Works Issue 1 money. So it's been, if I understand correctly, it's been renewed at least 3 times. The anticipation, again, it goes towards infrastructure. It helps us with our, for instance, I pointed out the West Union Street, $900,000 worth of work there, $400,000 that would come from this as a grant. It also, they do a set aside for loans, low interest loans for if you need to augment it, other funds for various capital improvements. It helps a lot of the county roads. Some of the roads have been done on county roads, I think 48 in particular, and I think 39 over time. We have a laundry list of it that we were given. I talked to other county engineers, other cities, and it's, as I say, it helps. It's a bit of a leverage for other projects we need to do. Again, it's for the infrastructure that we have to maintain.
Mayor, when you talk to other mayors, if they did not have this, if the voters decide not to vote for this, what do you see the impact being?
Well, it would slow down your construction cycle. If you didn't have the money to actually do some of the stuff, things would fall in more disrepair quicker. You'd have to either chase local dollars, local taxes and levies, which are not always forthcoming. You know, again, I talked to the ones in the District 18 of this area, and so it's a lot of small villages. A lot of small villages actually have the county help them, assist them in getting these funds to do it. They pool their resources together to do it. It's not unusual for a village and township to work together to say, okay, we're going to work together and do this and apply for this money. I see a lot of good in it. So, and I think, really, I'm not that worried that it won't pass. I guess in the past it's always been bipartisan. It's always had a good voting in. The last cycle, I think they were saying about 70%, 75% people voted for it. But again, the concern is that we use it to offset our other what we're doing. And we have, you know as well as I, we have lots of things that still need to be fixed and dealt with. The bend is towards infrastructure in terms of water, sewer, bridges. I know various bridges get funded in the county level. The roads as well. Each district area has, I think there's like 19 districts. I may be wrong at it, because I know we're number 18, but I think there's a couple others out there. They have their own structure of how they parse the data, the funds out. It's a scoring system that we do in collaboration with, scoring of how long the infrastructure will last, how many people does it actually affect, the total cost, how much money we leverage locally to ourselves, to how much skin in the game we have, as well as we also have a county priority scoring as well. So we get together with the townships, the county engineers, the county commissioners, and decide what our priorities within the system are, within the counties, and score it as that becomes part of that number. It can be contentious at times because there are a lot of needs out there, but the fact is we're trying to work together, and it's a case of just trying to maintain civilization as best they can.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 0814. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. the resolution is adopted. We do have a couple of announcements, I believe. Member Fall, you have an announcement?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. As many people may realize, that the federal flood insurance program is undergoing some changes at the national level. And to this end, the Near East Neighborhood Association is hosting a meeting, an informational meeting, tomorrow night at 7 o'clock in the East School Music Room. And there will be somebody who specializes in the federal flood insurance program from Westfield Insurance Company coming to give a presentation about the flood insurance changes, and there'll be opportunity for people to ask questions. Nina would like this to be open up to anybody who's concerned or has questions about the flood insurance program, public and also people in the insurance industry, insurance agents, local agents, or brokers are invited to come. So that's tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, in the music room at East Side School.
Thank you. And Member Nisley.
I have a moment of humor for you all tonight. But it's about two issues for the city, and I even gave it a title, Poo-Poopy-Doo. Here's the scoop for you. If you walk your dog on the bike path, don't forget the aftermath. If to the park you take your fast food pack, be sure not to leave that snack. Your neighbor's child might pick it up and say, "What's that?" Anyway, my gentle reminder that we've got spring cleanup week coming, and it's for all of us in the community. So no matter whether you're a homeowner, a renter, or a landowner, to take a look at your view. And when you take a look at your view on your sidewalk or out in your yard, that as far as the city's regulations, it's actually 18 inches out from the curb. So if you walk out of your apartment in the morning or your house in the morning and see the empty cigarette pack in the gutter where, you know, somebody's trying to ride their bike to work later on, just take a moment and pick it up. It'll make a big difference for us. And the second thing I wanted to highlight was already brought up by the mayor, was the beautification day, or the Paula. It's this Sunday, and consider signing up, because we've got crews from the city, crews from actual candidates, and we've got crews from the community, and also we're going to have 36 people working with city persons and other volunteers to remove graffiti. And the sign-up sheet, or the sign-up website, is still open as of this afternoon, and they're accepting walk-ins that day, is what the website says.
I believe actually that the online registration has closed, but walk-ups are welcome on Sunday.
So if you've got time from noon to 4, show up at noon at Scripps Auditorium steps.
Any other comments from council members? Now we have an opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that were not covered on the agenda. Jack, come up and give us your name, and you have 3 minutes, please.
All right. My name is Jack Stauffer. I live at 62 Sunnyside Drive. Not a good public speaker. I'm going to read this. I actually have 2 issues that I would like to address here this evening. So in advance, I would like to say, go ahead and start your 3-minute clock, but please reset it when I jump to issue 2. Okay, like I say, I have 2 issues. The first I would call a service issue, which I would bring to City Council's attention. The second I would refer to as a safety issue, which I would like the attention of Council, the Mayor, and the Service Safety Director. I'd like to make you aware of my neighbors and my concerns with the condition of our street, which is Sunnyside. And I'm in reference to the 1 block between Watt and Shannon. The street seems to be in pretty darn good condition from State to Watt, but in very poor condition from Watt to Shannon. And I saw at the City Council meeting it was spoke of, and or maybe I read it in the paper, that you would like suggestions on what streets we think might need attention, and that's the nature of my visit here this evening. During the course of this little petition that I formulated, circulated, and had signed by 18 of the households on my block, there was a couple notes added, but a couple of things also popped up that I'll go ahead and take it, mention that in my second issue. But the petition reads, "We, the residents and homeowners of the most eastern block of Sunnyside, would like to call to the attention of our city council that our street is in very poor condition. A survey was taken of the residents who have lived on our street for the longest periods of time. Mr. Stedman of 84 Sunnyside said, 'I've lived here about 26 years and the street has never been paved. A thin coat of slurry seal was put down at one time, but there is no evidence of that at this time.' Mr. Metters of 71 Sunnyside said, 'By my recollection, it's been a long time. I've been here since 1954. Mrs. Moorhead of 61 Sunnyside stated, 'The street was in pretty condition when we moved in. That was about 50 years ago in 64 or 65. I don't recall any paving.'
You're about half a minute on that first.
Maybe these folks don't remember when it was done. Maybe the street department has a record. Really, it's not relevant. Our street is in very poor condition. Please give us your full attention and consideration when you do your street tour." And the attachment was, "I am in agreement with the attached statement. Please take a close look. Your attention and action to our situation would really be appreciated."
Okay.
We're all aware that most of the streets in the city are in bad shape. It's a rough winter. But the people on Sunnyside don't just have potholes or patched potholes. They have patches against patches against patches. And I'm in reference to the street between Watt and Shannon. I've lived there for 7 years now. Columbia repiped a lot of the east side, the near east side, and they did not repipe our block because they said it was steel-coated pipe and they did not anticipate any future problems. And I have not noticed any water line issues or sewer line issues, let alone reoccurring issues, so we believe that we would be a good candidate for street paving this summer. Thank you for the few extra seconds. Okay. This is the second issue. When I was doing my little survey and or petition, I'm going to call your attention now to the corner of Shannon and Sunnyside Drive. On that intersection, I believe there's a school bus stop, and at a very close corner, the corner of Lincoln and Shannon, is a city bus stop, approximately 100 feet away. Not to mention all the regular pedestrians and bicycles that travel the intersection every day to and from the bike path and just the neighborhood traffic. I've been watching the gradual sinking of a concrete sidewalk near the corner of Shannon and Sunnyside, just beside a catch basin for storm water. Yesterday, Sunday, while talking to the neighbors, it was called to my attention that this was a problem, and I said that I had previously observed and agreed with that neighbor and promised that I'd mention it here this evening. I went back down there with my flashlight and my rule. I'm a retired plumbing contractor. And I stuck my rule in a couple holes in the concrete sidewalk at approximately a 45-degree angle, and they went in there about 3 feet. So I stuck my head in the opening to the catch basin and looked up the storm line, which is large diameter that runs longitudinally along that side of Sunnyside. It's a 12 to 18-inch diameter tile. And with a flashlight, if you stick your head in there, you can look up there, you can see about 4 feet. And what you'll see is a vertically cracked storm line. You will also see where it has settled down and is out of alignment, which will allow the water to escape and wash around and create a void that I believe is there that's let the concrete sidewalk drop between 5 and 6 inches. So it's a problem, and I think it needs attention, and I believe it would be a safety issue. So I want to put this in some context for you. As some of you will recall, we had a similar situation on our street back in April of 2011. And after waiting in excess Monday night, the mayor and Ms. Mosley and council got something done within 3 days. Through my efforts prior to that, I got nothing. But after I came up here and I spoke, within 3 days, I got a solution. So that's the reason I'm here tonight. I don't want to wait 5 months. And it actually ended up being 8 months, because after 5 months, after 5 months, I wrote a letter to Ms. Mosley to call to her attention that the person that works for her had let this go on an additional 2.5 months without patching the sidewalk. And winter was coming, and I thought it should be taken care of before the snow and ice got there. So you guys have the power. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
for
you,
bringing
Jack.
this up.
Thank you.
Anybody else have something they'd like to talk to us about? If not, we will adjourn at 8:05. Thank you.